It is overwhelming. He's done so much that people are just tired of it, and they just threw their hands up and walked away. Well, you can't afford to walk away, people. You truly can't. Otherwise, we will be living under a dictator who will destroy every facet of our life and our freedoms.
So we're here this evening with Chris in the Omaha Metro on a beautiful Sunday evening. We are talking about the upcoming 2024 presidential election, and specifically, have you heard about Project 2025?
Yes.
All right. So for anybody watching this video that may not be familiar, I'm just going to, kind of give a little background. Project 2025 is a political blueprint published by the Heritage Foundation, which is a conservative think tank. Project 2025 seeks to reshape the U.S. federal government by promoting conservative and right-wing policies, by consolidating power in the executive branch. Here is a video from the Lincoln Project called Aftermath, looking at how Project 2025 could be implemented if Donald Trump is reelected. Please watch the video, and then I'd like to ask for your comments afterwards.
November 5th, 2024. Donald Trump defeats a divided and dispirited Democratic campaign. On January 20th, 2025, Donald Trump is sworn in as the 47th President of the United States. Unfortunately, he keeps his promises. Trump seizes control of a divided government, signing hundreds of executive orders implementing Project 2025. Trump replaces over 50,000 civil servants with hardline MAGA loyalists. The federal oath of office now requires declaring loyalty to the president, not the Constitution. Protected by the Supreme Court's grant of total immunity for official acts, Donald Trump orders the Department of Justice to arrest members of the January 6th Commission, current and former DOJ employees, and political opponents for treason, election interference, and conspiracy. He declares it to be an official act. Trump ends birthright citizenship by executive order and turns millions of American-born citizens into illegal aliens overnight. Mass deportations begin. Hundreds of thousands, including legal U.S. residents and American citizens, are imprisoned in newly built camps. Protests erupt. Trump addresses the nation from the Oval Office, invoking the Insurrection Act and declaring the protesters a danger to American sovereignty. He orders the National Guard to use deadly force to suppress the protests. In the wake of the bloody violence, Trump declares nationwide martial law, awarding himself new powers under the freshly signed American Sovereignty Protection Order, which defines protest of immigration policies as non-protected speech and a threat to national security. Governors in New York, California, Illinois, and elsewhere declare their opposition, promising to refuse compliance in their states. Trump orders their arrests. Trump pardons every January 6th attacker, including those who assaulted the police, and in a White House ceremony issues a new presidential medal honoring them. Many are given jobs in his administration. The Department of Education is renamed the Department of American Values and mandates a nationwide Christian nationalist curriculum for all schools receiving federal aid. Trump, joined by Speaker Mike Johnson and evangelical leaders, announces that the Department of Health and Human Services has reclassified mifepristone, making it illegal to distribute or prescribe, as well as new HHS regulations that make IVF treatments impossible to legally administer. Trump reverses one campaign promise by declaring a national abortion ban by executive order. Challenges to his authority are rejected by the Supreme Court, which has seen new appointments from Trump after it was expanded to 12 justices. He signs an executive order removing abortion records from HIPAA privacy regulations and announces a new federal data sharing program so states can monitor women's periods. Thousands are detained while crossing state lines under suspicion of seeking an abortion. Trump's acting Secretary of Defense, a disgraced ex-general, fires over 400 generals and admirals, leaving the military leaderless. Other Trump appointees purge the ranks of the CIA, FBI, and Department of Justice. By executive order, Trump withdraws the United States from NATO and ends Pentagon cooperation, with Ukraine. Russian tanks enter Kyiv. Vladimir Zelensky is killed. It is announced that Trump will run for a third term, claiming he was unfairly cheated in the 2020 election. His Supreme Court ultimately agrees with this interpretation, paving the way for Trump's 2028 re-election. If you hear all this and believe it isn't possible, then ask yourself, what did you believe was impossible just 8 years ago? This isn't a fantasy. It's Trump's plan, and he's counting on you to believe it couldn't happen.
So, Chris, before we get started, I hope you don't mind me sharing this. You're a veteran, so thank you very much, right, for serving this country and protecting us and all that you've done. What's your reaction to the video?
I think if we're not extremely careful and people don't get out and vote for democracy, it will happen. Trump is a danger to everyone.
How would you feel if the next president of the United States, Donald Trump, did the following things? And this is right based off of the video that you just watched. Number one, threw out the U.S. Constitution and jailed his political opponents.
I would consider that an act of treason. I've taken the oath to the Constitution multiple times. You don't back away from that.
Donald Trump technically has too, right, when he was sworn in as president, but it seems like he's forgotten.
He doesn't understand the meaning of the words. He never served.
Next one, pardoned all January 6th protesters and gave them medals.
I earned my medals. The only thing the January 6th protesters have earned is the right to sit in a jail cell and rot.
Ended birthright citizenship and began mass deportations.
Well, the first one he's going to need to deport is all of his kids, except Tiffany. I think she's the only one that maybe her mother wasn't an immigrant. The rest of his kids were all birthed by immigrants, including his youngest son.
Renamed the Department of Education the Department of American Values, which mandated a nationwide Christian nationalist curriculum for all schools receiving federal aid. That would include K through 12, community colleges.
I think that would be a disservice to education and the teachers. It's hard enough right now trying to educate the younger generation, and the younger generation doesn't have a clue. They have, since the pandemic, they've lived off of social media. That's all they know. You ask them any history question, you ask them about government, they don't take civics anymore. We grew up taking civics class, and you didn't graduate if you didn't know civics. I think that needs to come back. Every person that graduates from high school should have a fundamental understanding of what our government is and how it works. And these kids don't.
And along with that, right, U.S. history and all of the people that have went before us that have sacrificed so that, right, we can enjoy the freedoms that we have.
Yes. There are multiple people that have sacrificed their lives, their limbs, to allow us the right to have this discourse. What they didn't sacrifice was for it to be turned inside out and upside down and used against others and take their sacrifices for granted.
Stripped women of all reproductive rights, making mifepristone illegal, IVF impossible to get, and abortion illegal in all 50 states.
I'm a physician. All you're doing is driving that to the back alleys. You're going to be right back where and it's already happening. Women are dying from illegal abortions when they can get it. And if you turn around and take away the one medication that helps, it's not perfect. There are complications that happen. But what these people have not done is, abortion is one thing, healthcare is another. Having IVF or doing a D&C because somebody miscarried, that's healthcare. That, unfortunately, the name they were given was abortion. So they're confusing somebody wanting to not have a child at this point with people that need the health care. They don't need to be septic. They don't need to die. They don't need to sit in a parking lot and bleed out. There's a law that's called EMTALA, Emergency Medical Transfer. I used to know it by heart since I'm an ER doctor, but that says by federal law, if a woman walks into an ER, they're having a miscarriage, our job is to do everything we can to save their life and to treat them medically. However, states like Texas and Florida and some others have made it illegal for the physicians to do that. So what you've got is you're ending up with physician deserts. There are no OBGYN doctors that can practice in Texas. The few that are there are leaving because they have to. We all took an oath to do no harm. When you tell me that I cannot perform or do a medical procedure because you have misinterpreted as being part of the abortion issue, you're keeping me from doing my job. You're keeping a lot of other people from doing our job. And that hasn't quite hit this area that way yet, but they're trying. They're trying very hard. And then what are you going to do? Start picking up the dead bodies out of alleyways? Okay, sorry.
No. I'm here to listen.
That's my soapbox.
Which of the things from this video, and there's quite a bit to process, worries you the most and why?
I think the fact that if Trump wins, we're going to have another January 6th. Whether it's at the Capitol, they learned from that. That was a practice. So they've learned from that. But that doesn't say there's not going to be many January 6s all over the country. That's what they're planning. That's what their hope is, to do it in so many different places that people can't react. And that's what I see happening. You're going to have Americans against Americans. You're going to have bloodshed. That's what scares me. I grew up in New York. I know Trump since he was a young pup. He hasn't changed. He lies constantly. He'll tell you whatever he thinks you need to hear. And if you remember, one of the things he's done in many interviews, he said, if you lie enough, people start believing it. So if you say the lie over and over and over again, which is what he's doing, people start believing it because that's what he wants.
There's another saying that I think goes along hand in hand with that. A lie can travel halfway around the world in the time it takes the truth to put its pants on. And this is certainly an angle that I'm looking at, right, with technology. When you and I were growing up, right, I mean, lies were still dangerous back then, but right now with a click on your smartphone or on your computer, you can post something on social media, on the internet, and of course take a look at, what cable news, right, does.
Exactly.
A lot of it isn't news, right? It's entertainment. It's punditry, and there's an important distinction between journalism.
Fox News is entertainment. It is not news. But a lot of this with the social media got worse during the pandemic, because when they shut everything down, right or wrong, whether it's right or wrong, we learned from it. We knew nothing at the time it started. Okay? Trump sat there and poo-hooed it and is responsible for millions of deaths, for over 1 million deaths, because he did nothing. The only thing he did was put the thing on getting the vaccine started. And then he's like, oh, don't take it.
The horse was already kind of out of the barn at that point, though, right?
Yes. But the problem is that a lot of people that didn't do social media for 1.5 years had nothing to do. So they taught themselves. Well, what they learned was, if you go to this site and you're bitching about something, they'll lead you to other sites, to other people that think the same way. And they just lead you down that foxhole over and over and over again. And during the pandemic, that's when people learned about social media. It's when they learned about the deep web. That's when they learned all these conspiracy theories are out there.
The genie's out of the bottle. What do we do now?
Honestly, I don't know. Other than, in order to preserve our democracy, and it's going to change. It's not going to be the same as what we knew before. But to preserve the right to have a democracy, people have got to get out and vote. And I'm going to say this, do not vote for Trump. Do not vote for the lies. If you don't want to vote for Kamala Harris, then don't vote at all. But you can't vote for somebody who is a liar, a con man, and a grifter. And he is all of that. Just look at all the things. He has stolen more money from the federal government through his last presidency. He's doing it through the Republican Party now. I don't know what information he has on people, but he's got something on them. He's got some kind of dirt. And he's using that. He's threatening them. So they're afraid to speak up.
I also want to come back to something you said earlier, right? He also has broken, which I guess you could call a lie, to uphold the U.S. Constitution, right?
He broke that oath a long time ago. He flat ran over it, destroyed it, and ground it into the ground. And I'm not sure he understands what the words mean.
Well,
he has no integrity.
For somebody, right, that got, I think it was 4 or 6 medical deferments, right?
For bone spurs. Hell, everybody has bone spurs. If you live long enough, you have bone spurs. You know, they're there.
A lot of his peers, right, didn't come back from Vietnam and probably had bigger medical issues.
Well, I'm thinking if he had ever gone to Vietnam, he probably would have been fragged by his own troops. They would have hated him so badly, they would have fragged him. That's just my opinion.
Sure. A couple more quick questions here. The next one I would say is not applicable about, do you ever take your liberties and freedoms for granted? It's abundantly clear that you don't, right? And you've served to fight so people like me can have those. So once again, thank you. Final question. How does this video change how you view Donald Trump?
All it does is it, in a very short video, compresses all the information about Donald Trump into one easy to view video. And other social media, the mainstream media, they all need to do that. They all need to get involved and show his lies after lies after lies, his grifting, his cons,
and try to condense it down, right? Because it's very overwhelming for everybody.
It is overwhelming. He's done so much that people are just tired of it, and they just threw their hands up and walked away. Well, you can't afford to walk away, people. You truly can't. Otherwise, we will be living under a dictator who will destroy every facet of our life and our freedoms.
In 30 days, American democracy is on the ballot. And to your point, right, even if people don't like Kamala Harris, they don't like the choices, you may have to suck it up and choose the lesser of two evils and ultimately ask yourself, right, if the Constitution, right, crumbles, if so many of these things, right, institutions that are put in place to ensure that we can live the American dream, then everybody in this country, right, is going to lose something. Some will lose more, some will lose less, but everybody will lose something. And is it worth taking that risk, is my question to people.
It has to be worth taking that risk, because if we don't take that risk, we don't have a country. We don't have our freedoms. We have nothing. But there will be bloodshed, and then you're going to have to pick a side.
Choose America. That's the side I'm choosing. Choose democracy. Choose truth. Choose freedom. Choose liberty.
Exactly.
Choose to honor all of the people that have sacrificed so that I can live a very comfortable and cushy life.
And don't forget, all of us that have retired, we're still good shots.
I can't think of a better way to end this interview than that. I know I wouldn't want to piss you off, so.
Nah, don't.
All right. Hey, thank you very much, and don't lose faith. We can get through this.
Okay. Thank you.
And I'm going to stay close to you because I know you're a good shot.